What inspires someone to move from a rented two-bedroom flat in London to 20 acres in the countryside to live off the land, start a glamping business, and support the environment? Well, I speak to Kate Simmons from Round the Woods in Norfolk about it, and she's got some very inspiring things to share. Welcome to episode 33. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's lovely to have you here. I've got a bit of a treat for you today. I've got Kate here, who I had a conversation with in the Facebook group that I lead, which is a place for new businesses to come together to talk about everything that they need to talk about on a daily basis, things that are helping them, things that are hindering them, things that might be getting them down, like guest behaviour, or things that are really inspiring them and making them happy. They all come together and talk about it in my community group. It's one of the largest ones in the glamping business, and I'm so excited that it's there for everyone to help them. But Kate and I were having a chat in there about how she started her business journey and exactly what she did to leave London from a two-bedroom flat that she was renting with her partner to Norfolk, to a 20-acre plot in the countryside to live off the land, start a glamping business and support the environment with their family. And it's really inspiring. So this is a little bit different from normal because this is an interview, a conversation that took place in my glamping business group on Facebook. And I decided I wanted to share it here on the podcast because it was really lovely, really inspiring. Now, I think if any of you are kind of playing with the idea, toying with the idea of maybe this is something I could do, maybe I could leave my office job, maybe I could leave the city, maybe I could do any of those things to actually start a new life, to start a new challenge, I thought you'd really enjoy this one. So rather than having it within the group, then I thought I'd bring it over here to the podcast and share it. But you know what? You are more than welcome to join the group as well. So do feel free to do that. If you want to, you can go over to inspiredcourses.com/Facebook, and that will take you straight into the Facebook group, and you can request to become a member there. But, I hope you enjoy the interview, and please reach out and leave a review to say thank you to Kate for inspiring us here with what she's done to change her life for her and her family. I hope you enjoy it. I can't believe, really, that we've been in touch in one way or another since 2014. Where does the time go?
I know, it's crazy. It was before we even bought this property when I first bought your business guide. And yeah, it's just been a journey. 4 years.
So back then you were in London, and so
yeah.
Tell us what's happened since then in, a snapshot.
So we were in London, in South London, and at that time we had a baby who was just a few months old, and we were looking to get out of London and move to the countryside and try and rebalance things, find a way of spending time with our family and live off the land as much as possible. So yeah, that was kind of a way of combining different career interests we'd had already and our passion for the environment, and just finding a way of getting it all together and spending more time and moving back to Norfolk as well, because me and Seb, my partner, met in Norfolk when we were 16 at boarding school. But the first thing we wanted to do when we left boarding school was move away, get as far away from Norfolk as possible, go travelling, go to university, spent 7 years in London, and then it all kind of brings you back to what you actually miss and where you want to be in your life. And we realised that was Norfolk, and just having more space and working kind of together and not being in offices so much anymore.
So how much land do you have now?
We've got 20 acres.
Wow.
So we've got a house on the property, and then there's a meadow with the yurts in, and there's 7 acres of woodland, and then another meadow that we've just planted 400 trees in this winter to try and bring it back into woodland. So we went from a rented 2-bedroom flat with a tiny garden to having a lot of land and trying to figure out how to manage all of that.
So what was the aha moment really that kind of made you want to do that whole move from the city life to the glamping life and being on the land? What was that? Was there a defining moment? Did you sit at your desk one day and just go, no, I can't cope with this anymore?
I think it was an organic process. My first degree and career was in tourism, but that was kind of office-based tourism. And then I hated how environmentally unfriendly that was. So then I did a master's in environmental management and moved into wildlife charity and environmental kind of sustainability. But we had this dream of living on the land, and ultimately our dream was to live off the land and not have an income or much of an income, and try and figure out how that would work.
Yeah.
And then reality kind of hit when we had children and we needed to bring in some money, and just combining kind of our our love of eco-friendly living with the tourism side of things. Glamping was just seemed perfect. It was the ideal combination, really. And I think that's why people love it as well. They don't feel guilty about their luxury holiday, but they can get that experience that they're really looking for. They don't have to travel far, and they can just relax and enjoy that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then, no regrets then?
No regrets. Definitely challenges, but no regrets.
Yeah. But the challenges, they keep you on your toes, and they can make you feel alive, and all of that kind of thing, doesn't it? So tell us about your glamping business kind of philosophy. What's your philosophy underneath it all?
So I mentioned the eco side. That was really key. And before we even opened, we actually got a gold award from Green Tourism, because we integrated that into the business from the very kind of planning stage. We wanted it to be really low impact, so that if the business had to close for any reason, things could all be taken away, and there just really wouldn't be anything left, any footprint of the business on the land. And then luxury, I think that was it. Having such a small baby, we actually went and stayed in a yurt when he was 3 months old, and it was Easter, and it was freezing, and he was teething, and we knew how important it was that you could be warm, you could get a good night's sleep, you'd be really comfortable, and that became really key, because there are different scales of glamping, and different people look for different things in that experience, but that was something we really wanted to provide. And also living on site, when we were looking for properties, we really wanted to be able to be there and be accessible by our guests, or for our guests. So when our guests arrive, we meet everybody, we take them down, we carry their luggage in the wheelbarrows down to the yurts, we talk to them, we kind of make them feel really welcome and relaxed. But that then means that throughout their stay, they can just wave to us if they see us, or just come and ask any questions for advice, or just have a chat about what we've done here, or anything really. So through that, we feel like we've made friends and we've connected with people, but we've also made people relax and feel really welcome into their holiday. Because I think there could be a balance if having us living on site, they could feel like they're in our back garden and they're imposing on us by being here, and they can't just roam the meadow free and kind of play on the tree swing and just take over, which is what we want them to do. we want them to just use the space as if it's their own. And I think making that, so yeah, that's another, they're kind of the three key things really, making people feel really welcome, and that's been kind of our philosophy.
Yeah. Do you think that what you're doing and what you're offering, do you think it really helps bring people closer to nature and loving nature? And if we love something enough, then we're obviously going to protect it, and our kids and our future generations are going to protect it. Do you think that your business helps to achieve that?
I really hope so. It looks like it from the guests that we've had over the last 4 years. You see the children just love running through the meadow, and then you just see them squatting down all the time and like looking, and when you go and ask them what they were doing, they're just catching little grasshoppers and just studying them, and just these small little creatures that they'd normally just kind of walk through and walk past and wouldn't really observe. They're just there, just studying and loving, kind of spotting. And this year was the first year we really, I think because I don't know, we've missed the timing of the frog spawn basically every year. If we don't go down to the big pond at the right time, we just miss it. And this year we knew when it was, and so we told all the guests that were coming for the next 2 weeks to go down there, and they just loved finding the tadpoles with the nets and just investigating those things. And a lot of our guests, because we're only 2 hours from London, come from London, don't have gardens or big gardens, if that, and so yeah, you don't feel like you can really relax into a space if you go into a park. It's great having these green spaces available,
Yeah.
but they're not your own for a weekend, and you don't have your fishing net to go and dig in the pond, and you don't kind of just sit in the meadow and while your parents are on the hammock relaxing. You're kind of not able to just run free in that way. There's always too many people, or somewhere else to go. You don't just have a whole weekend just to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's great for children and families and couples. Everybody just loves having that space.
Yeah. I saw on your Instagram page, I saw the pond full of frog spawn. It just looked like frog spawn soup.
So I was just writhing around, and yeah.
Amazing the things you get to see. So you are based near the lakes and rivers in Norfolk. So tell us a little bit about that area and why it's so special.
Yeah, so there's the River Wensum, which runs quite close to where we are, which is a big river in Norfolk. I actually go kayaking on it on a Wednesday night, and it's lovely.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then along kind of on either side of that is a lot of lakes, and that's where there's just so many fishing lakes in this area. So yeah, it's really interesting. But then you've also got the coast half an hour away. You've got the Broads, which is just amazing. Amazing for wildlife, amazing for outdoor activities. And yeah, Norfolk, like, I didn't remember it being this good when I was 16, but there's so much stuff. We're still, even though we moved here 4 years ago, we're still discovering discovering its offerings with the children. And yeah,
Has that been one of the biggest surprises for you in starting your business? Or have there been other surprises, good and bad, of starting your business? Has it been about discovering new parts of Norfolk that you didn't know existed because you're able to do that? Because that's part of your job, isn't it? To know those places and tell your guests about them, share those secret places.
I think the biggest surprise that we didn't account for is the challenge of transitioning from having normal jobs to being self-employed, living where you work, and working as a couple together, because we both had completely separate jobs. So I think that's the biggest challenge, trying to manage your time, because from our experience, if we've got any spare minute, it feels like we should be working on the business.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to shut off, because you're so passionate about what you do. You love it so much. It's our only source of income. It's just what we it could be what we breathe and everything that we do if we don't have like a off switch. And I don't tend to have an off switch, I've discovered. I didn't realise that I was a workaholic until I started. But because of the site that we've bought, we have lots of woodland, we have lots of land to manage. We also try and grow as much veg as we can. We home educate our 2 boys, and we have the business. So it can be overwhelming, and it definitely is a transition that I think we're getting better at it this year. I think it's a better year for us to kind of got a handle on that. But I think it's easy to think, oh, I can work for myself. That's a dream. That is the dream that a lot of people have. And it lives up to a lot of what you hope it's going to be, but we didn't anticipate the transition that it would take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that you're definitely not the first, and you won't be the last person to struggle with that transition. I think you've done amazingly well, and it really is something that you do have to think through and develop as you go, I suppose, and develop your strategies for switching off, and develop your strategies for managing new things that you've never had to manage before, because you've never done it in that way before. And I think that's where groups like this really help, because you can share those struggles, and you can share, or ask questions of people who may be further through the process than you, or who may well have, come out the other side and thought, that really worked for me, and it might help you as well. And that's what I really love about having groups such as this networking group. And so, I mean, you recently
realize you're not alone. Sorry,
yes,
you realize you're not alone. There's so many other people, but without these Facebook groups, you just aren't in touch with other glam site owners. Even if there's people that are local to you, they are competition, and it's hard to get that balance. Whereas on these forums, you've got access to people across the world, and so you've got access to more people that are likely to be experiencing what you're experiencing, or who have learned from that already.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You shared recently in the group a struggle that you've been having. You were talking about how you were finding it quite tricky to market your business on a small marketing budget. Can you share those struggles with us, and say what have been your biggest challenges so far with, say, becoming more visible on the small budget, and how you've managed to maybe think outside the box and bring different things to you?
So we literally have a tiny budget because it's our only income. It's really hard to put a large proportion of that money towards marketing when land management takes up a lot of money, and just feeding a family of 4 is quite expensive. And I've already said how hard it is for us to manage our time and switch off. So I think my inclination was, if we've got any availability, to spend that time once the boys are in bed, just work, try and do as much as you can. And that there's if you've got availability, it means you need to spend more money or more time on marketing. But actually, I think you can get a lot smarter about how you use that time and how you use the money that you have got. And also, I realised I can't meet some kind of guidelines of how many posts on social media I should be doing. And I've had to drop that expectation on myself, because there are times when I have to do the essentials. And the essentials are doing changeovers, doing the laundry, keeping the land and the site looking good for the guests that are coming, and just doing the basic admin that needs to happen. And then any other time that I get is kind of where the marketing has to fit in. I think we're quite lucky somehow now that we're 4 years in. Most of our guests find us through our website. So something that we've done has worked, and I don't know whether that's just our exposure over a few years, and people have just, our website has got enough of a profile. If people are looking in Norfolk, there's also not that many glamp sites in Norfolk still, which is really surprising because it's a really touristy part of the country. But we've got about half the number that there are in Devon, and they're both counties are the same size.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not, the market isn't saturated yet here. I think there's quite a lot in the pipeline for this area, because Norfolk last year made more money in tourism than Devon did. It's just there's not many glamp sites yet.
Yeah, so that's fabulous.
Yeah. So yeah, those few of us that were there at the beginning is really good. So maybe that's another reason that we're being found. But yeah, I just try and be realistic on my expectations on what I can do with a tiny budget, and balance all those.
It is all about balance. There's no doubt about it. It is all about balance, and it is also about help automating a lot of what you do. That's something that I deal with in my courses, but we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about you. And one thing I wanted to talk about was about you recently had a huge win in terms of your marketing. And so can you share with the group about that and how that happened?
Yeah, so we did. So we got a phone call in September from a lady from a production company who wanted to film a fishing program in the area, and they wanted to stay in our yurts. And they did a couple of recce trips to come and have a look, and they decided that they did want to stay. It was a stay in October, so it was actually a week after we closed the business for the year. So we obviously left the yurts up for them rather than took them down. And it was all very secretive. We weren't allowed to know who it was or anything, and they wanted to meet us on camera, and they wanted us to meet the comedians on camera and do a meet and greet outside the yurts, and we weren't allowed to know who it was even until the point where they came and we put our hand out to shake.
Wow.
Yeah, which was a bit bizarre because I'm sure it made the moment even more awkward than it would have been. But yeah, so basically they were looking for quirky accommodation, and they came across our yurts just through our website, just Googling yurts or glamping in Norfolk. They found us and they paid for their stay. It was a they were guests. They were like kind of guests as we would have other guests, just with a few extra people around, and a bit of a different situation. So it was for a BBC Two programme, and it was just two comedians going fishing, and they were going to different places around the country. And so this one episode was going to be about Norfolk and their childhood links, or their childhood memories of camping and kind of those things.
Is it a documentary style, or is it a fictional style, or do you know how it's going to run? Or
it's more of a documentary. It's kind of their experiences of fishing and travels around the country. So it's Mortimer and Whitehouse, Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse, and they've both suffered from heart problems.
Oh.
So the idea, Bob Mortimer has had a triple heart bypass.
Wow.
And Paul suggested that he should take up fishing. So to try and relax himself and recover from his surgery.
Okay.
So he agreed to take up fishing for the TV program, and Paul was in charge of the fishing. That was his expertise, and Bob Mortimer was in charge of finding somewhere fun to stay, and then cooking a heart healthy meal. So they cooked when they stayed with us. They cooked around the campfire, chose our yurts, which we were really happy about.
Absolutely. Were you in it, or were you just there watching it happen?
Well, luckily they cut our awkward meet and greet out. Really happy to say. The reason they gave is because they couldn't arrange meet and greets with all of the other episode accommodation hosts. But it was probably just that it was just really awkward. But it was quite handy because they had a yurt each, and we've only got 2 yurts on our site, so they had the whole site to themselves, and they could kind of do. They didn't have to worry about anybody else. They could do how, film as they wanted to. We didn't have to book out anything else or kind of cordon anything off. It was just them having the whole space to do their filming.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I mean, now that you've seen how it all works and you've seen behind the scenes, have you got any tips for anyone else who might want to get involved with the TV shows like this, or maybe with Amazing Spaces? Because I know that we managed to get you talking to Amazing Spaces, but you chose not to go for that one because you weren't going to be ready. So have you got any tips for anyone else about, getting involved in this kind of thing, getting this kind of publicity for free?
Because of how we were found, we didn't actually have to do any work to be found, so that was quite convenient for us. But I think you can list your site on as filming locations, which we will look into doing, because it worked out really well to have people come on site and use that space in that way, and hopefully we'll get some publicity out of it. I think you need to be quite flexible if you're working with production companies, because things have to change. From our experience, things change quite quickly, and also being accessible and being there was quite a few kind of last minute, can you just do this and can you do that? So we anticipated that. We didn't have any other plans during their 3 or 4 days that they were on site. We just left them to it as though they were guests, but we were there, so they came and asked us all sorts of things during their stays. It worked really well. It was really nice having them, and it was pretty exciting experience. So I'd recommend it if people are able to kind of put their site out there and be found.
So you would say for you it's been worthwhile so far?
Yeah, it's been worthwhile. It was a bit of extra work. They had expectations or kind of requirements that made, I think, because they're not used to staying in yurts, it's less of them choosing a holiday in a yurt and fully immersing themselves in the experience, because they were actually filming and it was for a show. So it was Paul Whitehouse and Bob Mortimer actually stayed for 2 nights, and they had the film crew had a day of filming before that for all their stills, and then they had the filming, but they only ate 1 meal on site, which was actual around the campfire. All the others, they went to the local pub, which we recommended, and they were really surprised to see them 4 meals in a row. Because of that, they then kind of asked us if we could keep their wood burner going, so that when they got back from the pub at 9 o'clock at night, it would be nice and warm for them. And then they had a whole day of filming one day, and when they got back at 6 o'clock, they wanted the campfire roaring, and they wanted both wood burners going, so that they just got back on site, and they could just film their cooking bit and be in their cozy yurts. And we would never normally do that for guests. We did actually, they paid extra for that, because it was quite hard to kind of suddenly get like a 15-minute call. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Can you get all these 3 things done right now? And we were like, well, actually.
Oh, that is hilarious.
I've got dinner halfway on, and I'm about to go out to kayaking, but I'll just cancel that, and we'll do what we need to do. So I think, flexible. But it was definitely worthwhile.
Was that what you found stressful about the situation, those extra demands?
Yeah, I think because they hadn't really planned them in, and it was just suddenly like, we're out, it's October, it's quite cold, we're still fishing, it's run over, it's getting to 6 o'clock, it's going to get dark, we need to have the campfire, quick, how do we do this? Let's just call Kate up and she'll solve it. Maybe that was the most stressful part.
And what did your kids think about all of it, and having the production crew and the camera people running around everywhere? What did they think about it all?
They loved it. They've had some really interesting conversations with them all. It was a little bit bizarre, because we let the production company, all the crew and everyone, drive down onto the site, all the way down to the yurts, which we don't normally let guests do. And there was a lot of extra people around and big cameras and things. So that was a little bit strange for them. They also, for the meet and greet bit that they wanted to film, the boys had to be standing outside the yurt with Seb loading the log store. And they had to do that 3 or 4 times. So they were a little bit confused why they had to unload the logs and load them with, it's something they normally help us do.
Yeah.
But they were like, we don't normally then unstack them and then stack them again and then unstack them.
Oh, the joys of working with a production company.
They kind of lost interest towards the end. But yeah, no, they were great. Yeah, really good.
So what are you hoping might happen as a result for Round the Woods in terms of the show? Are you hoping that it might bring some extra bookings, extra publicity?
Yeah, well, it would be really nice. We found that most of our guests are actually new to glamping. So it would be really interesting if the show gives people a more of an insight into what luxury glamping actually looks like. I think people are, so the majority of our guests being new to glamping, when we open the door to the yurt, and they go, wow. And that even though they've seen pictures, it's still quite hard for them to actually get their head around what it looks like. Whereas on camera, I think that comes across better. Seeing the inside of a yurt and seeing the space around it, you can get a bit more of a kind of image of that, can't you? So yeah, hopefully it will get us a bit of publicity. Obviously that would be lovely. And also if it gives people a better idea of what luxury glamping looks like and the amazing space that you get in a yurt, which we just absolutely love, and we hope more and more people kind of will enjoy seeing that. Also, glamping in Norfolk, if we can kind of build that up and get more and more people coming this way for glamping, that would be really good. Because actually when, just this year, we've been listing with Visit Norfolk, which is the kind of tourist board for this area. We trialled them last year and they put us in their self-catering category because they didn't have any glamping and I didn't want to go in normal camping because I figured they didn't have people wouldn't have the budget for glamping or our glamping if they just had a budget for camping. And we got like no views. It was appalling, absolutely appalling. And I've managed to convince them this year that they needed to bring in a glamping category. We were the only entirely glamping site on their listing at the time, and there was 2 other places that had elements of glamping to their site. And now they've built it up already. It's only been going a couple of months, and they're promoting this glamping section. They've suddenly realised, just by Googling glamping in Norfolk, they realised that there are quite a few sites now, and it's a growing sector. So it would be nice to kind of bring more people into awareness of coming here, and if we can get any interest from fishing people, that would be nice to see if fishermen want a luxury holiday.
Absolutely. So have you been doing anything other than that to maximise your publicity from having been on the show or about to be on the show?
We got in the Eastern Daily Press, which is our local newspaper. So we got we sent out a press release last week. So that's got picked up by them, and we've been tweeting and putting social media posts out, and we've got a few more planned. And I'm debating paying to go in a publication, but as we have such a tiny marketing budget, it's kind of the balance of this is a really good marketing opportunity and we need to jump on it, but it's also finding the funds to actually maximize it for ourselves.
When is the Mortimer and Whitehouse show starting so that we can see you on telly?
Yeah, so it's on this Wednesday, which is the 20th, and we are in episode 1. It's at 10 p.m. on BBC Two. It's called Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing. So yeah, hopefully it'll be on catch up, and it might be replayed on Sunday evening as well, a bit earlier. But yeah, check it out.
I can't wait to see you on there, Kate. I wish you luck with everything as it happens, and I hope it opens lots of doors for you and getting lots of publicity for your business. And yeah, do please give Kate a thumbs up and a heart, and go and check out her website, which is www.roundthewoods.co.uk, and go and see what they've got to offer over there. Well, I hope you found that as inspiring as I did. Of course, thanks to Kate for sharing her views and her journey and everything else that she's done over the years to launch her business and just make it really successful in Norfolk. Of course, please go and check out their site. It's Round the Woods in Norfolk, UK. They are always there taking bookings and welcoming new guests. They'd love you to go and stay. And if you want to go and check out the Facebook group again where this interview originally came from, then you'd be welcome to join in with the member discussions over there. So you can go to inspiredcourses.com/Facebook. And as always, I'm offering lots of free tools, advice and guidance. If you want to start your own glamping business and dive into the beginning of your new journey, your new life, then you can go and check out the tools that I offer over on inspiredcourses.com/tools. So I hope you come and hang out with me here again. I've got lots of amazing people coming to be interviewed on the podcast. I'm so excited to share this with you. And I'm even more excited to share with you some of the structures that are coming out onto the market. I simply cannot hold back my excitement. So be sure to join me again where I'm going to share it all with you. It's super exciting time in this industry. Take care. See you again soon.